So, hey guys, before you actually get this video started, basically the Department of Transportation is seeking views on introducing a minimum time period between passing theory tests and taking a practical driving test. Our consultation covers the driving test taken for category B license, standard license used to operate a car. So basically, like you basically heard across the internet, this is not an active law being put into place. This is in fact like the government basically asking multiple people by the 31st of March 2026 basically their views on basically this whole law stature and that what they think of their opinions based on this and that basically so far based on the public this is heavily negative. Why? Because of the introducing a minimum learning period, or basically the MLP, which we all hate, is that pretty much this basically affects everyone. No matter if you learn extremely quickly or extremely slowly, this affects everyone. And this makes it so right that the backlog, since it basically gone over like the entire backlog in the UK since 2019 has basically risen fucking expensively as that people is supposed to be risen in 2020. And then right by the end, about April 2021, it basically risen to basically like over 400,000 of tests booked. Then from there, right, it's on to continue rise over literally 4,000 at the midpoint, and then started to decrease a little because I just saw it shoot out. Then it risen again sharply above that, almost reaching up to 600,000, before slowly decreasing again down towards here around mid late 2023, and then by all basically early 2024, and then it started to in fact rise from 2024 onwards to over 600,000, and by pretty much this, it means so much that people predict right by 2027 this may actually clear up. And so, right, the introduction minimum length period is supposed to in fact fix this by basically having this 3 month waiting, so that basically you can use this time to pretty much learn how to simply drive, the fundamentals of driving, and learn how to do driving overall. This would be good if there was no fucking backlog, but there's a shit to the backlog, and so like this basically furthers a much more higher disadvantage. As that right, pretty much having this implemented with the entirety of the backlog, this makes it so right that honestly, there's not even any point to this, as that pretty much the backlog is pretty much introducing this rule already. As that pretty much my test is pretty much over like 5 or 4 months ahead. But so right, that is way longer than the 3 months that is seeking to in fact put in the minimum learning period. And so, right, there's not really any point if this backlog still continues. And even if this backlog continues, right, you know what happens after 3 months? They may actually wait an additional month, or maybe additional 5 months. Making so right that they may actually wait an additional year just so they can, in fact, right, do their practical driving test. And that's why, right, there's a major disadvantage, as that pretty much after these 3 months, people are going to start to learn. Making so right that these 3 months are just going to be used by learners to do fuck all and just wait it out all the way up to the end of the month of these 3 months when they start to in fact like, get off their ass and start to in fact learn how to drive. For example, myself, if I was in this situation, like if I have to wait 3 fucking months, I would just wait out these 3 months, sit my lazy ass, make these videos, and then after, as soon as I get the timer that goes like, yep, get off your lazy ass, do something with your life, or okay, get off your lazy ass, get in a car, learn how that shit works, and that's what we'll do it after 3 months. Simple as. So that's why it's not gonna work, as drivers like myself, or basically learner drivers, are just simply gonna sit around and just wait for the time to pass, and then after the time has passed, they will just start to in fact right do the learning and then book a driving test. And basically, this ain't gonna help anyone. In fact, it's gonna disadvantage everyone, as that pretty much with all drivers, they're all unique. So basically, no matter if it's a male or female, they will all learn at different speeds. Some people learn at slower speeds, some people learn at faster speeds. This is just how human nature works. We all work in different types of ways. So pretty much what I'm saying right is that, for example, someone who will learn extremely fast, who will be more likely to be affected by this, as that basically will be spending for the rest of the couple months, basically repeating topics after topics after topics of basically what they learned confidently. However, this could be an advantage to some people that are learning extremely slowly, basically by And the three months may actually learn about everything. But at the end of the day, right, this is just going to simply affect everyone, and this ain't going to really work out as expected by the UK government, especially when it's coming from the Labour Party, who literally said, right, that taking away your privacy is for the kids. You cannot forget the children, especially when, right, they can't do shit. But anyway, and they also admit, right, that insurance prices are done are so high now because of there's very skewed data, which basically says, right, that the government wants to in fact support drivers and committed government wants to support drivers and committed to the manifesto to tackle high cost of motor insurances. Or aka, they want to make sure that they can tell their motor insurances to go fuck themselves. Especially when it is mandatory to even have a fucking insurance. I don't know, maybe remove the mandatory need of having insurance. But that would be extremely controversial, as that pretty much this will be somewhere that this will in fact force all the cost and pretty much all the overall cost of pretty much repairing all the cars involved in an accident to be extremely high and probably force the person into bankruptcy. And so we have this mandatory use of needing an insurance, despite the fact it is absolutely goddamn terrible. That's what I'm gonna say as absolutely fucking terrible because honestly, it's all done based on the fixation of the data that we have is that we formed a cross-government task force on motor insurance, co-chaired by the Department of Transportation and His Majesty's Treasury. You don't know it's Her Majesty's Treasury because the Queen has been dead for a while. That's pretty much the only royalty that I will in fact support, and that's probably when royalty has pretty much declined. Because now I don't give a fuck about royalty, but when Queen Elizabeth was there, I kinda gave a fuck. But however, it's important to explain that motor insurance is responsible for setting the terms and conditions of the policy that they offer, and it's for them to decide the level of risk that take that they take in ensuring any policies given to a given applicant. Most insurance premiums are set according to the risk associated with a given applicant. As part of the assessment the insurance takes into account the age and experience of the applicant. Like for example, someone who's just passed, so mostly around 18, let's put it, as that pretty much by the time they actually complete their driving test, they'll be 18. So pretty much 18, and the experience, a couple of months, so about 4. The applicant record of the claims of, for example, how long they've been driven, the age, all that, the ID, the theory test certificate, the driving test certificate, um, the instructor maybe, I don't know with that much, and the type of vehicle that will be driven. For example, this is where in fact choosing your first vehicle is of course very important, as that you want to in fact choose a vehicle that according to the statistics has very low statistical records of people being involved in much collisions. This is why you found I should avoid very many popular cars, as that these many popular cars are often bought by young people in order to simply be driven around. And you know, fact right that these young people get into a lot of accidents, increasing the statistics and affecting fucking everyone in terms of people trying to get insurance for that particular car. And they're gonna go like if the number of collisions involving young and those drivers decrease overall, this may contribute to reduction in insurance premiums for younger drivers. Or aka this may actually if I do be a bit of decrease for men and a lot of decrease for females. As that we know for a fact that there's not even an equal amount of pretty much insurance premiums. Just like there's not an equal amount of pay between men and women, but let's just ignore that also. And of course, here's the data of the KSI. And there's basically two, where basically the first chart shows the killed or seriously injured car occupant casualties in Great Britain 2024, where basically they use this data instead of this data to basically show by how much casualties are there, as that pretty much in mostly all of this data, it shows that the most likely to in fact cause a collision are people 17 to 24-year-olds, compared to previous the 86 and over, who basically caused at least 183 with their car drivers compared to the 1,276 car drivers. This is mostly done by the fact that honestly, people who are 86 and over honestly do not think of their daily life to pretty much be hopping inside of a car and driving about. Is that pretty much when they reach 86 or reach around 60 or 70, they start to in fact like retire themselves and just stop driving overall and just start to in fact take public transport from now on. Who are basically driven by people who actually know what they're doing. And then they have chart 2, which shows the opposite metric, as that pretty much this is the killed or says the injured case like car occupant casualties per billion miles traveled in Great Britain in 2024, where it shows right for car drivers is 127.1218, and then for 86 and over is 169.4854 for pretty much, and then for car passengers is a slight decrease, as that for car passengers in the 17 to 24 range is 90.90858, then for 86 and over is 66.044818, showing that pretty much that the 86 and over are more or less likely to be involved in a collision if their passengers instead of drivers. And it shows that the opposite metric should be taken into consideration. That people who are 86 and older and the elderly should just have their licenses taken away and should not be driving, compared to previous people in 17 to 24 range who are basically getting the most, if not the highest amount of scrutiny in terms of trying to get a driver's license, especially when the backlog is so fucking high. It just shows one main thing. That the UK government does not give a fuck about any other age bracket. If you're 86 and over, go cause as much death and collisions as you can. They don't give a fuck about you. But if you're 17, they want to make sure that they implement as much shit as they can just so that they will forbid you from driving. You know what the backlash is gonna be? The backlash is gonna be that people are more likely to buy a car or basically own a car without a driver's license and hop on the roads without a driver's license and of course without insurance, making the roads a lot more dangerous. Sure, right now, basically what they're trying to implement is going to be the opposite. Is going to cause the opposite factor, where more likely people like me are just going to buy themselves a nice driver's license, or pretty much go ahead and hop into a car and without insurance, and pretty much drive it up and down the UK with no willy nilly. And you know what's going to happen? If this is like in fact going to case, the next couple generations, basically, if us Gen Zs are to in fact have children, are pretty much more likely just to encourage them to pretty much buy themselves a car for the first time, tell them how to fucking drive, and just let them drive all over the place. Because honestly, if the UK government starts to in fact go through with this, it's just going to cause more collisions. And you want to know why? Because more people are not going to be taking the driving test if it's going to be ever so more difficult for both the driver and the learner at hand. And they go like evidence suggests that younger drivers with efficient executive function make more errors, engage in more dangerous driving behaviours, are higher risk of collisions, and are more likely to be distracted while driving. I don't know what type of data they're getting this from, but you should not get data from other countries, or aka you should not go to America, check out what they're doing, and say that this data should be the main reason why we should in fact have all of these at stake in here in the UK. As that we all know that from all of this, that this is 100% false, as that pretty much getting a driving test, especially for practicals, is extremely hard and extremely frustrating, as that committing any sort of errors could be a minor, a major, or pretty much sounds about a fail, according to the driver instructor at hand who'd be taking the driving test. So pretty much the evidence is so hard to point, but that honestly it's more stupid than anything else. Basically, making more errors, engaging dangerous driving. This is mostly not really being done anymore, as that pretty much driving instructors are more recommended just to hold off, and that they will only recommend to basically book a driving test is when they realise that the student is actually ready to in fact pass it for the first time. So I do not know where they actually get this from, unless if the people who basically take these driving tests, or basically the people who basically watch over you and specifically take the practical driving test. I forgot what they were called. Tried to, in fact, by taking shit to corruption money and tried to let every single one of them pass. And in that case, this would make partial sense. But it doesn't make sense whatsoever, as that pretty much all the errors and all the dangers and all the high risk collisions and all the distracted while driving are mostly, in fact, being done under the driver instructor's hand, just so they can, in fact, fix it up before they start to, in fact, drive. And then it's in fact contradict themselves, saying about however evidence was justified that those drives for all ages are increased on collisions due to lack of driving experience. For this reason, we are opting to introduce measures to improve safety for all novice drivers, but yet they proceed to say that they want to affect young drivers. So what is it the UK Labour Party government? Is it A, we're gonna affect the younger drivers and make sure that they'll be absolutely fucked over by everything, or B, are we just gonna fuck everyone over equally because we know in fact right that the Labour Party is less likely to in fact right be in existence for the next kind of decade, as are pretty much more people are just realizing that the Labour Party is just a piece of shit. And then they proceed to, in fact, right, describe what the fuck a driving practice test is, or basically what a driving practice is. Where basically it requires a number of skills, including vehicle control, learning your driving instructor's car, has perception and decision making, and then have perception in the theory test, and decision making and learners. Decision making in the learner's car. Basically, all of this is mostly learned by the learner and the driving instructor. So I don't know where the fuck this actually comes into play anyway, so it doesn't really make sense at all whatsoever. And learners can benefit from experiencing difficult driving conditions, such as driving in the dark, adverse weather, and heavy traffic, as LMP could provide drivers more time to develop these skills and experiences. But yeah, because of this backlog, we are forced in order to do this either way. And on top of this, they want to in fact do more things such as driving in the dark, adverse weather, and heavy traffic. First of all, driving in the dark. I do not know a single driving instructor that will be happily just to take their students out to basically drive in the fucking dark. So basically, that is literally going to be written off. Second of all, adverse weather. This could be just snowstorms and all that. And yeah, sure, basically, different weather conditions could be good if it happens during the day. If it happens during the fucking night, of course, not really any point. And heavy traffic in the morning or basically around at night, which I know, in fact, right, no driving instructor in their right mind would be happily available to simply take their old learner out to, in fact, drive in the middle of the fucking dark. So basically, the LLP doesn't really make sense here, anyways. As pretty much stated, that no driving instructor would be available to simply take the learner out to drive in the dark, in snowstorms, or basically in heavy traffic overall. Basically being pointless. So basically, their MLP or the minimum learning period is entirely pointless indeed. As that pretty much having this will put a major disadvantage on the learner, a major disadvantage on the instructor at hand, as that they could pretty much, well, spend this time on teaching up new drivers who have their driving test be done in the future. And they go like, currently a load of drivers about to apply for a practical driving test as soon as they acquire a provisional license, which is true, and pass the theory test. Yeah, visualizes and passing theory. Yeah, we are consulting introducing a minimum time period between passing theory test and being able to take a practical driving test, which is absolute bullshit. As I stated, multiple people learn at different types of paces. Some learn extremely fastly, some learn extremely slowly. We are welcome views on introducing a minimum number of hours, mandating learning systems, and how learning can be conducted. First of all, this will be done by the instructor at hand. So basically, fuck off, UK government. The instructors know what they're doing. And if not, well, they would not be passing all the minimum requirements in order to become a driving instructor. So I do not even know where the fuck this is in fact coming from. So apart from the fact that the Labour Party was in fact my decrease their reputation as being a very competent party in the UK political system. And then they go like, and then LMP enables the drivers to be better prepared and could be by they're more likely to pass their test. Well, this can also be done without this and with the backlog that we have. But no. And it also can result in learners undertaking more supervised driving experiences, either through professional lessons and or private practice before they take the practical driving test. More than just safety measures, LP can allow drivers to build competence. With more practice, younger novice drivers should be feel more control, less anxious, and better equipped to face challenges. Well, the fucking backlog literally does what this says, so there's no point in implementing it, as I pretty much the UK government's own competence has pretty much caused this backlog to pretty much happen and basically caused, well, this happen. And you may be going like, why is there a backlog indeed? And because, right, because of basically the low salary as at pretty much in 2015, the salary of a driving test examiner is around 24.5 to 25.7k. Then in around 2020 2022, it raises to around 26k to 28k per year. And then in scientific fact, right, increase it all up to 29.5k to 30.5k, which should be around 40 to around 40k to 50k. Why it's so high? Well, this is because of how much importance the driving test examiners have in terms of pretty much the backlog that they have. If they decide to that right to pretty much increase the salary of these driving test examiners, then it will have more examiners than ever to in fact take these driving tests. And therefore right, they will have more competent people to basically fill out these backlogs, and therefore right, this backlog will mostly decrease as previous more examiners will be available to be taking these tests. And it's mostly down to simply the UK government not paying the driving test examiners anything good whatsoever and not give them anything advantageous whatsoever compared to pretty much the past couple of years, especially for inflation, as that this is extremely low. And if they decide to in fact pay all the driving tax examiners highly, which would be extremely costly, but however, it will in fact fill up the backlog extremely quickly. And then you got like the safety impacts of a minimum learning period. LMPs are one of the several measures that can have a positive impact, which is basically a fucking lie, as that it has more negative impacts than positive impacts. As that this is literally just the definition of, oh yeah, you know the time that you need in order to simply learn how to drive? Well, why don't we make that mandatory? And then on top of this, let's in fact force it around 3 months, and then positive impact on the safety outcome for younger novice drivers, which is literally just bullshit. As that pretty much when you learn before you take a practical test, that's literally just the minimum learning period, but optional or not needed whatsoever, as that multiple people learn at different paces. And they're gonna join the mandatory MLP, which I still don't get whatsoever, as that as a learner myself, we all learn at different paces, and if we decide in fact might be forced into these circumstances, well, we might as well just get ourselves a fake license, get ourselves a car, without an insurance, and just drive around. Yeah, sure, it will make the roads a lot more fucking dangerous, but who are you gonna blame? UK government, who basically decided to in fact put all these shitty rules together and make it so that it's extremely hard for pretty much any driver who's basically the age of 17 to in fact get a fucking license? Or are we blaming it on the people who basically decided to in fact cause these collisions to begin with? I'll recommend for you to in fact make your own decisions based on the matter at hand. But it says when learner drivers often practice under supervision of parent, guardian, or driving instructor, or just driving instructor, as the parents and guardians don't trust themselves in order to teach their child how to fucking drive. Evidence, my parents don't want to teach me how to drive, so I have to get myself a driving instructor. This allows them to receive constructive feedback and correct mistakes in real time. That's the definition of what a driving instructor does. So basically, this whole paragraph is just basically describing how taking a driving test or taking a practice works in the UK, which can lead to better driving habits. Honestly, like whoever made this is a dumbass and hasn't even done any research whatsoever. This is what most, if not how every single driver inside the UK learned how to drive. A mandatory MLP is intended to provide young adult drivers enough time to experience different driving conditions, which is BS, as that pretty much no driving instructor would take them inside of pretty much these dangerous conditions. So basically, It's either A, this is done by someone who basically the last time they did a test was over a couple decades ago, or B, done by someone who's never even taken a practice driving test in their life, which is crucial in making safe driving decisions. Wow, literally just describe what a driving instructor's decision is and just do that. And look at this, America. Yeah, why don't you just mention America while also saying that oh right, the invasion of Venezuela is a good thing. So yeah, well done. I don't know what else to say apart from the fact that the Labour Party has officially buried themselves in shit. What the? They should not be mentioning USA, who basically has not even lower standards of in order to get yourself a driving test or basically get yourself a driver's license. As that it's the Wild West out there in America. All you need to do is drive around in a fucking parking lot just to tell the examiner, oh right, I know how to drive. And then they proceed to in fact give them a license, on which they will pretty much use it in order to speed up most, if not all, highways. And the acceptance seems to be introducing a 6 month practice period at minimum. Some periods not 3 months anymore. It's 6 fucking months before being able to take a driving test. No passengers age 25 or under permitted for 6 months after passing the practical driving test. If the driver is under 20 years old, this is bullshit. And how the fuck are they gonna put this in mandatory? Are they just gonna arrest everyone who's in the car since they realize that the person's 18? How is this gonna work whatsoever? This is just bullshit either way. I do not even know what the UK government is on. Kill Starmer. Like fucking hell, I do not know what the Department of Transportation is doing, but they're doing a bunch of dumbass things. Like for example, I got like 6 penalty points if the driver's caught carrying So apparently you get 6 fucking penalty points if the driver's caught carrying a passenger in a restricted period. This is stupid. 6 points should be only given out to people who decide to pretty much drink a keg of fucking beer and speed down the fucking highway in the wrong direction. Not to people who are basically trying to take their mother to the A&E hospital. What the fuck is going on? So basically, if you're caught drinking, 1 point. Oh, you're taking your grandma to the local hospital. 6 point ban, mate. Go in jail, mate. You should be in jail. Oh, you're a foreigner? We're gonna send you back to your country, mate. I don't know where you're fucking you are, but we're gonna send you back to a place that you don't even know where you're from. But like, sure, we're gonna send you back to India, mate. Who knows? So basically, this is already frustrating me the fuck out. As that pretty much they are trying to make it absolutely fucking stupid. And you know what people are gonna do? They're gonna revolt. They're gonna revolt against the government by doing what? Driving on the roads without a license. I recommend you for you in order to do that, cause fuck the government. And they even had data with the minimum supervised hours, as they got 5 interventions for learning knowledge drivers on a voluntary basis, in which intervention participants were often invention and could choose if and how much to engage with it, based on that's the minimum supervised hours. Other than the intervention being a requirement for learning drivers, engagement with the intervention was very low. It was from 3 to 6.5%. So we are not going to include it in it, but we're just going to force people in it instead, because that's what the UK government is all about. We just, oh, you don't like something? Well, we're just going to force you to do it. Taxing you directly? We're also going to force you to do it. What is this gonna do? This is gonna destroy the UK economy than anything else. This is gonna increase crime. This is gonna increase everything. This is gonna increase all the bad, decrease all the good. This is gonna turn UK into pretty much GEA at this point, because who the fuck cares anymore? The UK government has lost their care because you have the Labour Party, which does not represent the people or Labour whatsoever. Congratulations, you literally just ghosted everyone who ever fucking supported you. And then go like what if venture testing the driver choice project was an app-based logbook, which has a game rate of 3%, which is extremely fucking low. Participants in the group has one to have discount on learner driver insurance, which is stupid by the way, as that the motherfucking insurance is already high as it is. So pretty much increasing by 1 or 2%, ain't really that much of an advantage. The child did not detect the impact on several points. The collision points 12 months, driving the intervention route that was off the logbook. It was just stupid overall, and they just thought right that it's extremely stupid, where people would not fucking engage with it. Let's talk about the modular learning syllabus. And they go like, a modular learning syllabus conforms as the approach by requiring instructor experience across diverse conditions. So we're just going to increase it from 6 months to over a year, just so that we could get the most experience inside of a driver via a lower this into a compensating modular system. We can sort of learn to get experience in no driving, different types of road types and varied weather conditions. So just like increase this to a year so that we could get all the snow, the sand, the fucking 9/11 terrorist attacks. Just get all the different types of weather conditions in there. You know, terrorism, dust storms, snow, extremely hard rain, collapsing trees. Just get them all in there because who the fuck cares? It's the Labour Party after all, not representing the people, representing their elites. And they go like, oh yeah, let's have a logbook also. Where basically a logbook can be effective measures to support and encourage compliance with the minimum passing requirement and scientific output in because our bias data shows that 17-year-olds are more likely to cause 9/11 attacks, terrorist attacks, or some Bin Laden attacks, be a terrorist, and all right, cause people's collisions on the roads, absolutely terrible driving standards, don't know what they're doing, being a dumbass, um, not knowing how to live properly. Just put everything that is bad about the world inside the 17 to 24-year-old bracket and just shove it inside a fucking rule book and just say that we need to do this in order to increase the safety on the roads. Well done, Labour Party. What else can you do, shitty? Oh, right, let's just remove the online. Let's just introduce the Online Safety Act, which basically encourages surveillance and encourages basically more surveillance attacks and just make stuff like that. Oh, right, you need to comply with this just so that you can, in fact, be safe on the internet for the kids. Oh, the primary school kids. Maybe as a parents did in fact decide to give their children by the age of 1 a fucking iPad, then it would not be the situation case either. But no, the Labour Party is just the Labour Party and they just want to introduce anything and everything that will fuck over the population whatsoever. I'm not actually surprised that the people of the UK have not revolted yet, but they should fucking revolt. And oh wait, if you ever revolt and if you ever download a video that is part of a terrorism, you're a terrorist yourself. You know when Osama bin Laden committed 9/11? You're as bad as him if you download that video. According to that fucking game, the UK government tried to get up and then apparently take down because people started fancying both a fucking emo girl and just do the opposite of what the UK government wants them to do. Yep. What happens when you include a fucking emo girl inside of a fucking video game? Of course, people can start simping all over it because that's the fucking internet. Apparently, emo girls are more attractive than any other women on Earth. Any other women on Earth. So yeah, pretty much the Labour Party has done nothing but fuck over the population of the UK so far by pretty much increasing taxes, increasing the difficulty in order to get a driving test, increase the likelihood of in fact living in the UK at this point, as that mobile people are just going to leave the UK in order to live somewhere else with lower restrictions and lower surveillances. As out here, Starmer does not know what the fuck he's doing, and the Labour Party also don't know what the fuck they're doing. They'd much rather be on the attacking end and attack everyone who fucking questions it. And if you ever say something that's absolutely terrible about the Labour Party, or say that you want to see Keir Starmer's head on a spike, or aka you want a big head Keir Starmer, you will have the police knocking on your door, treating you like as if you're Maduro being taken out of Venezuela. So, yeah, that's the whole video. Respond to this, say that this is gonna be an absolute shitty idea, and if this goes into case, drive on the roads without a license because fuck the UK government. It's time to go full on outlaw on this bitch. So yeah, stay safe.